On Global TV News Express, House of Representatives to probe Central Bank of Nigeria mass retirement and 50 billion naira payoff. In business news, Senate set to probe 8.4 trillion naira withheld subsidy funds by Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. On the foreign scene, South Korean president declares martial law. And in sports, British heavyweight champion Daniel Dubious to face Joseph Parker in Saudi Arabia. Hello and a warm welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Express and Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Amina Jibril. Now, a quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nigecomsat. The House of Representatives has called on the federal government to probe the incessant boat accidents across the country, leading to loss of lives and property. This was sequel to the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance sponsored by the member representing Okanafun, Orukanam Federal Constituency, Akwa Ibom State, Onyime Idem. He said Nigeria has witnessed a disturbing surge in boat mishaps in recent times, resulting in the tragic loss of numerous lives. The Akwa Ibom lawmaker added that the recent surge in boat accidents has raised concerns about the safety of Nigeria's waterways and the need for urgent intervention. And consultations on the federal government's national digital economy and e-government bill have continued nationwide with the latest in Imo State. The bill aims to establish a legal framework for digital governance while driving economic growth, transparency and innovation. Here is our correspondent Amarachi Bay's report. I beg your pardon, we shall bring you details of that report in our subsequent bulletin. The Senate has confirmed the nomination of Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede for appointment as Chief of Army Staff. The confirmation followed the consideration of reports by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Army, Senator Yar'Adua Abdulaziz Musa. The committee's recommendations were unanimously adopted by the upper chamber. Lieutenant General Oluyede was appointed to act as the Chief of Army Staff following the illness and subsequent death of Lieutenant General Taurida Biodun Lagbaja. And the Minister of State for Works, Mohammed Bello Goronyo, has issued warning to contractors handling Federal Emergency and Roads Maintenance Agency FEMA project. Speaking during a familiarization tour of the southwest section of FEMA, Goronyo emphasized that the era of project abandonment is over. He reminded contractors that the funds for these projects come from taxpayers who deserve full value for their money, urging them to fulfill their commitment or face consequences. The minister also directed the managing director of FEMA, Chukwuemeka Agbasi, to provide a list of contractors who have failed to deliver on the road projects awarded to them. Also in the news, the House of Representatives has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the circumstances that led to the mass retirement of 1,000 staff members of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The resolution of the House followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance sponsored by the member representing Ohoazara, Oncha Ivo Federal Constituency of Ebonyi State, Kama Nkem Kama. Speaking on the motion, Nkem Kama urged his colleagues to support rise to the occasion and show adequate interest in the matter, noting that the House needs to probe CBN's announcement of a 50 billion naira payoff scheme to compensate the affected staff as part of its human resources reorganization. Recall that the Apex Bank had announced it is preparing to retire approximately 1,000 employees as part of its strategic workforce realignment. And the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi of the Senior Advocate of Nigeria has asked the Office of the Prosecutor at the International Criminal Court, ICC, in The Hague, Netherlands, to stop the prolonged investigation of the Nigerian military. The AGF stated the country's position in a statement issued in Abuja by the Special Advisor to the President on Communication and Publicity, Office of the AGF and Minister of Justice, Kamarudin Ogundele. According to the statement, the AGF, in his remarks at the 23rd session of the Assembly of State Parties to the Rome Statute of the ICC in Hague, stated that Nigeria at the global stage had demonstrated the will to promote justice and end terrorism, among other global crimes. While expressing the country's commitment to confronting impunity, holding perpetrators of heinous crimes accountable, and restoring justice for victims, Fagbemi noted that the preliminary examination into alleged crimes in Nigeria had lasted 14 years and was demoralizing to the servicemen laying their lives to defend their country against terrorists. And the Iowa Youth Assembly for Good Leadership has expressed concerns over the proposed increase in the value-added tax of 15% amidst the economic realities faced by Nigerians. While addressing journalists in Abuja, President of the Assembly, Abdul Mbature, called on the federal government to reconsider the proposal. Sharon Ajay has details.
Speaking on behalf of the Northern Youth, President of the Assembly, Abdul Dambacho, opposed the tax reform, stating that it negates the historical and economic realities of the region.
We strongly reject the proposal increase in derivations sharing from 20% to 60%. This move is only unfair, but also ignore the historical economic realities of our region.
The Northern Youth urged the federal government to reconsider the proposals and engage in meaningful dialogue with Northern stakeholders to find a solution that addresses their concerns.
We demand that the federal government consider those proposals and engage in meaningful dialogue with Northern leaders and stakeholders to find a solution that address our concern and promote the region economic development.
Iowa Youth Assembly for Good Leadership also urged political parties to prioritize youth and gender inclusion in their party structure, candidate selection, and policy-making processes. Sharon Ajay reporting for Global TV News.
Meanwhile, former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, has urged Northerners not to criticize President Bola Tinubu over the proposed tax reform bills. Dogara, speaking during Channels Television's town hall on tax reform bills, stated that governors and other elites criticizing the bills were doing so from an uninformed perspective. He therefore urged them to consider the benefits of the reforms, especially in addressing key issues across the country. Since the bills were introduced in the National Assembly, many northern leaders have criticized them, with millions in the region calling for the review, claiming the bills target the north. Also, Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Tax Policy and Fiscal Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, has dismissed speculation that the federal government intends to outsource tax revenue collection to Alpha Beta, a company linked to President Bola Tinubu, currently assisting Lagos State in tracking and reconciling internally generated revenue, IGR, in exchange for a commission. Oyedele, while speaking at a town hall meeting, denied claims that Alpha Beta would be involved in federal tax collection. He noted that the federal government remains committed to direct tax collection. The firm has long been the subject of controversy due to its connection to the president. In another development, the Edo State Governor, Senator Monday Kwegbelo, has sworn in 3 judges who were initially rejected by Godwin Obaseki's administration. The governor supervised the swearing-in of the 3 judges into the bench of Edo State High Court at the Festival Hall in the Government House. He recalled that in his inaugural speech, he had promised to look into the case. The governor noted that 11 months after the recommendation of the National Judicial Council, NJC, only 5 of those recommended were sworn in as judges by the immediate past administration. leaving out 3 even when they had all been cleared and recommended by the same NJC. And the Federal Capital Territory has successfully placed 61,384 people living with HIV and AIDS in treatment. The Mandate Secretary, Health Services and Environment Secretariat, FCT Administration, Dr. Adedolakbo Fashawe, stated this in Abuja at a press conference to commemorate the 2024 World AIDS Day. Fashawe said that the day themed Take the Right Path, Sustain HIV Response, Stop HIV Among Children calls for a renewed focus on addressing pediatric HIV and safeguarding the rights of everyone affected by the disease. She described World AIDS Day, commemorated every December 1st, as a day to unite efforts, increase awareness, support those living with and affected by HIV and AIDS, and honor the memory of those that have lost their lives. You're watching the News Express and Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. When the global news returns, Senate set to probe 8.4 trillion naira withheld subsidy funds by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Details of this, as well as foreign and sports stories, will be coming right after this break. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying tuned. And now on business news. The National Association of Telecom Subscribers are reportedly to write to the National Assembly over the federal government's renewed push to impose a 5% excise duty on telecommunications service. Reports say the group is set to meet on Wednesday to finalize arrangement for the petition, which specifically seems to halt legislative approval of the controversial tax while the matter remains unresolved in court. The legal battle against the excise duty is ongoing at the Lagos Division of the Federal High Court, where the case has been adjourned until March 13, 2025. The president of NATCOMS, Adeolu Ogunbanjo, disclosed this while highlighting the urgency of notifying lawmakers. And the National Pension Commission has indicated that low-earning pensioners are now permitted to withdraw their total retirement savings en bloc or continue to receive their monthly pension pending the approval of the minimum pension guarantee. This is according to a memo by PENCOM signed by the head of the Surveillance Department. In the memo obtained in Abuja and dated November 27, 2024, the Commission said the development followed the new Section 4.1 subsection G of the revised regulation on the administration of retirement and terminal benefits in line with the new minimum wage of 70,000 naira. Before this announcement, retirees are only allowed to withdraw 1/3 of their total RSAs. And the Senate has tasked its committees in finance and petroleum as well as gas to investigate allegations of withheld funds by the NNPC, including 8.48 trillion naira in petrol subsidies and $2 billion, equivalent to 3.6 trillion naira in unpaid taxes. The allegation was highlighted by reports from the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NATI, and the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Responsibility Commission. The development comes following the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation saying it had received the necessary and complete document required to verify the 2.7 trillion naira fuel subsidy claim by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited against the government. The Senate also passed the 2024-2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and Fiscal Strategy Paper, FSP, for implementation by the federal government, following the presentation of the report by the chairman of the Joint Committees on Finance and National Planning and Economic Affairs, presented by Senator Musa Muhammad Sani. Now moving on to the foreign scene. The United Nations has warned in a report published on the second day of international talks on desertification in Saudi Arabia that drought cost the world more than $300 billion each year. The report cautioned that fueled by human destruction of the environment, drought is projected to affect 75% of the world's population by 2050, adding that the crisis has already exceeded $307 billion in cost annually around the globe. The warning coincides with a 12-day meeting in Riyadh for the 16th session of the Conference of the Parties, COP16, under the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, UNCCD, seeking to protect and restore land and respond to drought amid ongoing climate change. And South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol has declared emergency martial law. In a surprise late-night television address, he says the move is necessary to protect the country from North Korea's communist forces and to eliminate anti-state elements. He stressed he had no choice but to resort to martial law, but did not say in the address what specific measures will be taken. And the diplomatic red carpet has been rolled out for a state visit by the Emir of Qatar, with the King and the Prince and Princess of Wales leading a royal welcome. The visiting Qatari royals were given a parade along the mall, with Catherine part of the carriage procession, marking another stage in her return to the official duties. The state visit, an exercise in soft power, will see the Qatari royals given a private lunch at Buckingham Palace, followed by a visit to the Houses of Parliament and a state banquet. From that, now we move on to the world of sports, where the chairman of the National Sports Commission, NSC, Shehu Dikko, has called on private sector organizations to synergize with the commission and as it works towards the reintroduction of school sports in the country's educational system. Speaking when he received Prince Ezelekai Eware of Benin Kingdom in his office, Dikko said that the move is aimed at achieving grassroots sports development in the country. He emphasized the importance of more high-net-worth people getting involved in the development of the sports in the country, especially at the grassroots level. The NSC chairman also noted that this will help in curbing the menace of youth restiveness and similar vices, particularly at this critical period. And Crystal Palace captain Mark Guehi attracted attention during the Premier League's Rainbow Laces campaign after inscribing "I love Jesus" on his rainbow-colored captain's armband during the 1-1 draw against Newcastle United on Saturday. According to ESPN and Mirror Football, the Football Association initially considered disciplinary action for violating Law 4, which prohibits political, religious or personal slogans on kit items. However, the FA ultimately reportedly chose not to pursue formal charges, instead issuing a reminder that religious messages are banned under kit and advertising regulations. And now in boxing, British heavyweight Daniel Dubois will defend his IBF world title against Joseph Parker in Saudi Arabia on February 22nd. The 27-year-old returns to the ring in Riyadh after making a spectacular first defense of his IBF belt against Anthony Joshua. Dubois knocked out his British rival inside 5 rounds at Wembley Stadium in September, while Parker held the WBO title between 2016 and 2018 before losing a unanimous point decision to Joshua. The 32-year-old New Zealander upset former WBC champion Deontay Wilder last year before beating Zhilei Zhang to win the WBO interim title in March. And that concludes News Express on Global Television. But before we go, let's take a look at a summary of our top stories. You heard in the news that the House of Representatives has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the circumstances that led to the mass retirement of 1,000 staff members of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. On Business News, we told you that the Senate has tasked its committees on finance and petroleum as well as gas to investigate allegations of withheld funds by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, including 8.48 trillion naira in petrol subsidies and $2 billion, equivalent to 3.6 trillion naira in unpaid taxes. On the foreign scene, South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol has declared emergency martial law. And in sports, you heard the British heavyweight Daniel Dubois will defend his IBF world title against Joseph Parker in Saudi Arabia on February 22nd. And that's it on News Express. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276 and on free-to-air on HComSat. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen using Global Television NG. I am Amina Jibril. Thank you for watching and have a good evening.